Jeremy Hunt has said there is likely to be less scope for tax cuts in the March budget than there was last autumn. The Chancellor told the BBC he wanted to lighten the tax burden to help grow the economy, but he said this had to be done in a responsible way. In last year's autumn statement, when the government sets out its tax and spending plans, Mr. Hunt announced a cut to the main rate of national insurance from 12% to 10%. In January, Mr. Hunt repeatedly hinted that he was aiming to cut taxes in the spring budget. Speaking at the annual World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, he said that countries with lower taxes have more dynamic, faster-growing economies. However, the Times newspaper reported that he had told a cabinet meeting this week that major structural weaknesses in the economy, including low productivity, meant there was likely to be less headroom for tax cuts in the upcoming budget on 6 March. Asked about the reports, Mr. Hunt told the BBC's Political Thinking podcast he was awaiting the final numbers from the Independent Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR. The OBR produces economic forecasts for the government ahead of budgets, which include an indication of how much room for maneuver there might be for tax cuts or spending increases. It doesn't look to me like we will have the same scope for cutting taxes in the spring budget that we had in the autumn statement, Mr. Hunt said. And so I need to set people's expectations about the scale of what I'm doing, because people need to know that when a Conservative government cuts taxes, we will do so in a responsible and sensible way. He added, but we also want to be clear that the direction of travel we want to go in is to lighten the tax burden. Tax cut promises may need to be rolled back. IFS Chancellor Jeremy Hunt hints at further tax cuts. How are income tax and national insurance rates changing? The Chancellor has 2 audiences, members of the public keen for an easing of the pressures on their finances and Conservative MPs desperate for tax cuts. In their current perilous position in the opinion polls, many Tories see tax cuts as a necessary step to overturning Labour's lead. Earlier this week, the New Conservatives faction, on the right of the party, called for 24 billion worth of them. Mr. Hunt is warning his colleagues not to expect too much, but there is almost certainly a dose of expectation management too. Before the autumn statement, he played down expectancy.